Hi guys, welcome to the tutorial. This is the first part for modeling. We're gonna go through all of the tools I'm going to use in the second video. First of all, the reason I'm sounding like a dead walrus is because I'm slightly hungover today. I just popped a painkiller so I can make this video. So basically it's just time to make it, otherwise I will never be able to publish it for you guys, so there is no time to waste here. So I will sound kinda slow and unmotivated, but that's not because I am, it's just because I'm tired. So I hope you will enjoy the video, and of course you can check the description for the other videos and also for the Gumroad link where you can download whatever I'm going to upload it there, so you can download it and like donate or something if you want to, so I can get wasted again next week. So I hope you'll enjoy the video and series, and see you guys in a bit. So navigation is pretty simple in 3dsmax. You have the viewports here, all four of them. You can just press down the middle mouse button in the active viewport. You can see it with the orange thing. Middle mouse button, the scroll. So if you press down the scroll thing like this, you can pen. And also you can find this hand here and click it. This will also do the same thing. You can use the scroll to zoom in and out. Also you have this magnifying glass here, and you can click it in the bottom right corner and zoom that way. And you can rotate around the viewport by holding down Alt and the middle mouse button like this. And you can select by click and drag, of course, or this one. And I don't know, maybe that's all about navigation to know. Also you can extend the viewport if you click here, so it becomes bigger. I added a shortcut to it, so it jumps like that. And you can add shortcuts here in the customize user interface. If you click it, then it will come up, and there you have it. You can customize everything and add hotkeys to them. Also you have this navigation box here, which you can click, and it will go or rotate the viewport around like that way. So that's it about navigation. So the first thing you want to learn is creating primitives. Here you have a create panel here. You click it, and then you have geometry tool tab here, and we have standard primitives, which are primitives basically. So boxes, spheres, cylinders, and all of those together. Most of the time I start out from a primitive when I start modeling like a head or whatever, a leg or something. So these are pretty useful, and of course you have a tripod torus. You can like mess around here and find interesting things to create. So definitely check these out, but the one I'm going to use in the tutorial is the standard primitives, these one. So now we have an object created, a primitive. Let's start with a box, maybe here. Let's create it from 0. So here we have it, and you can move it, rotate and scale it. It's really easy. You can click on an empty space, and then you can right click and select move, rotate or scale. Let's select move, and you have also these here. So it's the same, move, rotate and scale. Of course moving is moving. You can click this panel or the white, or yellow plane here, and you can move the object on that plane, or you can click the arrow and move the object on the axis, or you can click this box and it will move it in 3D. So there you go, the planes, and that's it. And you can switch to rotate, and then you can rotate the object. If you click on one of the lines, then it will rotate it on that axis, but if you click into in between the lines, then you can rotate it free-handedly. So that's it. And then we have scale. Select it here, scale. I have it on shortcut, so if I put my if I click on the keyboard, then I can change it. And scale is, yeah, it's the same. You have the plane scaling, then it will only scale it on that plane, or you can select all of the planes and then it will scale it uniformly. So that's it. It's basically the same things as the navigation, like you have rotation, move, which is the pan, and then the scaling. So that's it for moving the objects. So now we have again our primitive here, just the box. Now we know how to move it and rotate around, and now we can learn how to convert it to editable poly, which means that we will have access to the elements that make up this geometry. So now we have it turned to editable poly by converting it here, by right-clicking on the object, convert to editable poly. And then we have vertices, edge, border, polygon, and elements. So let's talk about vertices first. Now we have it turned on, and now you can see these blue dots. Those are the vertices. You can select them and move them individually. So now we can transform this primitive freely by, like, we can select each vertex and move them. That's very useful, a really useful thing. You can we will learn about these things later, but what you want to know here is that you can, by moving them and rotating them, or yeah, just moving them, then sometimes you would just want to make them flat again. Like from this view you can see that they are all scattered, but we can here select, like the axis, we want to flatten the thing on. So select X here, and then it's going to be flat from the X axis, and we can like select Y, and then it will flatten it on that axis also. Yeah, I think that's it for vertices. We will cover them a bit more in depth later on. But basically vertices are just points in space, coordinates here. You can see X, Y, and Z. If we modify the Z coordinate, then the vertex will move and it will pull the connected edges with itself. So that's a vertex right there. And now we have the same thing converted to editable poly by right-clicking, and we have the edge element or component of this geometry. And those are these white lines, which are just basically, edges are lines between vertices. So here we have this vertex and that vertex, and between them we have this edge. And you can move the edge, or you can get the same result by selecting the two vertices and moving them together. But yeah, edges are pretty useful to move and select. We have some special things we can do with a edge here, like chamfer is pretty fun. It will split one edge into 2 or 3 or 4. So you can mess around with these options, just experiment with them and see what they do. Yeah, this is basically all of the panels will have a lot of things in common, like making it planar or making it flat again. So from this view, again, if I move it, select the edge like this and click X, then it will flatten it out. And we will learn about the other things later on. And now edit poly, convert to poly again. There is a polygon panel here. Polygons are basically surfaces between the edges, okay? So we have vertices and then edges between those vertices, and then we have edges and we have a surface between them. So it's all interconnected. And now we can select these faces like this. I mean polygons like this, and you can move it or rotate it or whatever you want to do with them, basically. Yeah, you can also like delete one or two if you are cruel. And then what you want to know about polygons also is that they are they have a forward side and a back side. So this polygon right now faces this direction, and from the back side, most of the time it will not be visible in games, but you can flip it like this. I know it doesn't make any sense, but it will later on, so just bear with me. And lastly, we have edit poly elements. Let's select this cube, convert it to editable poly, like that. And elements are basically separate geometries inside another geometry. So let's learn about attaching first. Here you have attach, which means you can click another geometry in the viewport and it will attach that geometry inside this one. So we have click it, we click the other box, and now we have both of the boxes inside this geometry. We can move them separately or select all of the polygons and move them like this. But now that we have two separate geometries that have no common vertices, you can select them individually on an element level. So if you go to the element, you can select these geometries separately. So that's it. Let's say that we have that we combine these two things together quickly. I will show you guys how to do it, but let's just do a quick demonstration here. So now they have common vertices. The two boxes now they are separate here. But if I combine them, or I mean weld this gap between them together, they now have common edges and vertices. So you cannot select them anymore separately. They became one element. So that's it. Basically, it's pretty useful if you have like a character that has a weapon on the hip or like a separate geometry for the eye. You can quickly select them with the element thing. And now we have bridge, drag, and cap. So let's not barf first and then convert this to editable poly again. Let's learn about bridge first. So we are now in polygon mode. I select two of the polygons, or maybe three. Sorry, delete them so we can demonstrate what bridge is. Let's go to in edge mode, which we already learned about. You can go to edges and select two edges with holding down the control, of course. And now we can have this bridge here. If you click this box, we can change the modifiers, but I never change it basically. So just click the bridge here, And what it will do is basically connect these or make a bridge between these two edges. So that's pretty useful to do when you're like creating something. So let's delete this one again, and let's learn about drag. If we're in the edge mode again, we can navigate our viewport like this, and then hold down shift and start dragging one of the edges, and it will automatically create a polygon for us from that point where we started pulling it from. So now we can grab the opportunity here and make a heart from this angle. Of course it doesn't look too good at the moment, and we can like connect or close this here, like selecting the two edges and click bridge. So now it's a closed geometry, and then we can, if it's closed, then we can select the border. I haven't talked about border, but it's not really that interesting. It doesn't need a separate video for it. But borders are basically edges that don't have polygon attached to them on one of their sides. So this is a border here because all of these edges have only polygons on their bottom side. So they don't have polygons here, so you can select this border. But you can also go to the edge mode and double click, and then it will select this loop of edges also. And then you can go here in border mode, like click cap, and it will close it down. So now we have a polygon on top or in the bottom. And yep, also you can drag the same thing, hold down shift, drag a polygon out. It will ask if you want to make it a separate object or clone to element, which we already talked about. So go to element mode and it's a separate element now. You can select the edges of it or the border of it, and then you can use shift and move tool again to create I don't know what is this, but we did it. There is another box here, and then we have it here, the original geometry. So you can already see that you can really quickly make new stuff here, like move it with the shift, clone to element, scale it whichever way we want it to, and then select something, move it and cap it. So basically this is it. You can drag vertices also, but it doesn't make much sense. Nobody uses this, or at least I don't. So, but you can experiment with all of these things. So, yeah. Cut, connect, and divide, and weld. Same thing. Start out and convert it to editable poly. Basically, cut means that you can cut up the geometry and create new edges on polygons that were not there before. So select the cut tool here on the vertex mode, cut, and then you can click on one of the vertices and start dragging, or I mean start just moving your mouse, and it will automatically cut up your geometry like this. It's recommended to use it in vertex mode because you see the vertex is better, but you can use the cut tool from the polygon menu also. I just don't recommend it. Yep, so that's it for the cut tool. And then we have connect, which means that I can select on the vertices level two separate vertices that don't have edges between them and create one. So you cannot create a new edge between this polygon and this polygon, because there is no straight line that you can make it. So connect only works if the polygon is clear between the two vertices. So we have the two vertices, select and connect them. And if you want to connect these two vertices, you want to use the cut tool for it, like this. And as you can see, it will cut all of the edges it intersects with. For divide, let's learn remove here. If you select an edge on the edge mode, you can remove it, like clicking remove here. So it's no longer there. Let's select these edges here, sorry, and we can hit connect also, and then here on the box, so this box, if you click it, then the panel comes up, and then you can like change the amount of edges you want it to create, like here. And then you can change the pinch, so they become closer to each other or further away. And also you can slide it slightly to one side or the other. So now we can select all of these edges, like selecting the loop, the continuous line of edges, and then scale them down like so. Sorry. And then we have it beautiful. It's the best thing I made so far. And then we have weld here, which means you can select two vertices in vertex mode, click on weld or the box next to weld, and you can modify the distance of how far the vertices will be collapsed together, like so. And you can also use the collapse button for that. But you don't have options there, so you cannot change the distance on how far the vertices will be collapsed together. They just collapse together and that's it. So, yep. So loops and rings are very easy. You can create a cylinder. Let's create a cylinder. Pull it up. There you go. Convert to editable poly. You can go to the edge panel, you can select one of the edges, hit loop, and it will select that loop. Loop is basically just a continuous line of edges. You will learn in time how to use them. They are very useful when you're modeling. For example, let's select this vertex here. We can hold down Ctrl and click on the polygon thing, and that will select all of the polygons that this vertex was connected to. So if I select this vertex, click polygon, then it will select those. But let's click here, hold down Ctrl, click polygon, and then we can hit this grow, and it will grow the selection. And then we can hit delete, select this loop, because it's a loop here. And then we can use the drag thing again, scale it down, drag it again, and we have a battle or something. So collapse them together. So these are loops, very useful. These are loops, sorry. And these are rings. You can select them here. If you select one of the edges and click a ring, then it will select all of the parallel edges that goes next to that edge. It's kind of weird to get your head around this thing, but in time you will get used to this and learn how to use them. Like here, I selected these edges, this ring, and I can maybe connect them together and then just make a quick cut here. So that's pretty useful also. So self-selection is like this. You convert it to an editable poly, go to the vertex level, select one of the vertices, and there we have a self-selection scroll down menu here, you can click soft selection here and adjust the fall off. Soft selection is basically just making the selection soft. So if you move this vertex, then the other vertices will follow along next to it with a bit less movement. So it's really useful if you wanna like fix the model at some parts or make subtle adjustments or bumps like this. So soft selection is very useful. This is what you will need, and there is also this one. You will find it useful when there are more objects. So let's do this quickly. Copy this element by holding down Shift. There we go. Clone it to the element, and then if I go to the vertex mode again and use soft selection, as you can see now it will move the other geometry as well, because it doesn't take in consideration that they are not the same element. But if you push this edge distance thing and move it up, so like that, then it will not move the other one, just the one that's part of this element. So just the vertices that are part of this element, and the other one will be left undisturbed. And if you uncheck it, then both of it will move. And hide, unhide is basically on all the levels. So on vertex and edge and polygon, you can select like one polygon maybe, and here you have hide unselected. Maybe that will hide the polygons that are not selected, or you can hide the one that are selected, but that doesn't mean that they are deleted. They are just not visible. So if you want to modify something that you cannot see properly, you can hide the polygons, make the adjustments like this, and then you can unhide the polygons again, and it will come back with the unhide all tool. And of course you can do this in all the layers. So on the vertex menu you can hide the vertex. It's not really useful, but yet you can do it. And also on the element menu you can select one element and hide the other one, or hide the one you selected. It's also pretty useful, so I use it a lot. You will see me use it a bunch. So pivot points basically are the position of the objects. So here we have this box, and you can see the movement arrows here. Those are coming out from the pivot point of this object. And pivot point, like here you can see the coordinates of this box. We can move it like this, and that will move the pivot point to that location, like so. We can modify the pivot point of an object like here on the hierarchy. Click Effect Pivot Point, and then move it to here, maybe outside of the object, and now we can rotate it from that point. And if we want to move, then it will be moved from that position. Yeah, basically every engine uses this. It's just a way to let the engine know where that geometry is in 3D space, or where the origin of that object is. So it's also useful to know how to modify this pivot point thing if you want to. Like here we can hold down Shift and pull this geometry here with the rotate tool, and then we can select copy, instance, or reference. If we select copy, then it will make another box that's separate from the first one. But if we select instance, then it will be connected. So if I modify one, the other will be modified also. And also if you do it again like this and increase the quantity or the number of copies here, then you can do stuff like this pretty quickly. And that's because of the pivot point modification, like will do other end results if you move the pivot point, as you can see. So pretty fun. So cameras are useful when setting up the reference images. You can create them on the create panel and click cameras and create a targeted or a free camera. Free camera doesn't have a target, that's why it's free. But you can experiment with the targeted one also. I just move the camera here, and let's say on this viewport, instead of the left view, I want to change it to the camera, so click on the left, like, I don't know, writing, and then select the camera instead. And now you can see, if I move this camera, then the thing that the camera sees will change. So you have it here, and then we can link the camera to something. For maybe, we can create a plane here, like we would do for a reference image, and we can select the camera and link it here next to the undo and redo button. Select and link. You select the camera and link it, drag the line from it, holding down the mouse button to release it on the plane. And if we now rotate the plane, you will see that the camera still looks directly onto the plane, but it starts to rotate if we rotate the plane. So it's pretty useful if we're using reference images. So that's it. So modifiers, we have a few modifiers in 3dsmax that are useful. I mean, there are a lot of modifiers, but we're not going to use most of it in this tutorial. They are here on the modifiers or modifier panel, and there is a scroll out here. Let's talk about symmetry first, like convert this to editable poly, move it down, or no, maybe select this ring, divide it up, delete the other side, and then like move this down a bit on the edge mode, and then we can, from the scroll out, find symmetry here, click it. Now it's hidden because it copies the empty side over to the side we want to copy. So if you click flip here, then it will copy the left side to the right, and like that. You can change the axis here, but it doesn't do much in our case at the moment. So, but you can change of which plane the symmetry modifier will act upon. So, yep, pretty useful. FFD. Let's create a teapot here, like this. And FFD is basically giving you a cage for soft selection. So, like here, I have the FFD from the from the modifier panel. You have FFD 2, 3, or 4. I selected 3. Then we have three of these things to modify here. And then, as you can see, it's just basically a soft selection thing, which gives you a freeform kind of tool, which you can use to modify the objects more easily and quickly. So that's pretty useful also. Let's delete this modifier here, like this. And we can select push, and push basically pushes outside the geometry a bit, so it inflates it, basically. You can push it outside or inside, it will make it thicker. As you can see on the cylinder, it becomes thick or thin. But it does not work really well here. But let's see with the cylinder quickly. Yep, whatever. Push is really good also. But now that we have it here, you can delete the push, or yep, and we can use bend to bend it. That's it. Yeah, that's really useful for cylinders, but you can use it on the teapot as well. if you want to. Yep, these are pretty much the tools I use, modifiers I use during the video. Yep, you can mess around with them, with the direction and angle. All of them has some kind of additional modifiers. Just experiment with them and see what they do. So there are a few things that are also useful here. Let's create a teapot quickly and let's mirror it. We have the mirror button here. If you click it, then you can select on which axis you want it to be mirrored on. Like select X for now, and the same thing you can set it to no clone, so it just flips the existing model, or you can set it to copy. It will make a copy, which is in an individual copy, and there is like instance which will connect the two geometries together basically. So if I modify one, the other one will be modified also. Okay, so that's mirror. We can also use align. Here, if I create a box, I can select this teapot, and here we have the align tool right next to the mirror. Click it, and then I have my teapot selected. I can click on to the box, and it will align the teapot's position with the box's position. I can select that I only want to adjust the Y position or the Z position or all three, and I also can change what will be snapped to what, so I can like change the center of the teapot should be snapped to the pivot point of the box. So I mostly use pivot point, by the way, and you can align orientation also, like the rotation or something, and the scale too. So if I scale this down and rotate it like this, I can select the teapot, go to align, click it there, click the orientation, and it will also rotate it. You can match the scale also. As you can see, it applied the same rotations and modifications to the teapot as we did on the box, so that's pretty useful. There is also the snap tool. Let's make two boxes here. Snap is very useful when you want to snap two vertices on top of each other, and you can find it here. If you click on snap and then enable it, then you can click with the right mouse button, and it will bring up the settings here. You can make it to snap to vertex. I most of the time use this one, so let's use it now. And also on the options panel you have enable axis constraints. That means if you move the vertex or move the object, if I select the vertex here, as you can see on the edge or in the corner, you can snap it to the corner of the other box in all three dimensions. But if you click enable axis constraints, then we can maybe select this corner and snap it to on the x-axis to have the same x coordinate as the corner of this box. So if we grab this one, the upper corner, and move the box down a bit on the z coordinate, then it will snap it to only on the z coordinate. So I know it doesn't make any sense and I cannot speak English, but you know, just experiment with this one and the snap tools, and it's pretty useful, so you should definitely have fun with that. And there is also angle snap. We can turn it on right next to the snap toggle. You have angle snap, which you can modify to maybe every 50 degrees. If you rotate it, now it will only rotate it in a 50-degree steps. So if I change it to 10 degrees, then it will snap every 10 degrees. It's also a useful tool. And let's say I have this box and I rotate it around like this. And now if you check the rotation and everything of this box and the move, or I mean the rotation and the scale, let's adjust it quickly. It remembers that it was scaled down, and the program remembers that it was also rotated. But if we want to reset all of these transformations on this object, we can select the utilities panel and the reset Xform tool. Click on it, reset selected, and then it will add Xform modifier on top of our modifier stack. And if we convert this to editable poly, now you can see that the rotations are zeroed out, the scale is zeroed out also. It's also a pretty useful tool, and it fixes a lot of bugs that 3dsmax can do. So materials, pretty simple. Let's create a plane here. We have it here, and if we press M on the keyboard or click here, material editor will come up. We select a new material here, and of course you can change the sample size like by right clicking. I always have it set to this. But yeah, if you select a new material, an empty material, you can add a diffuse map to it by clicking this box here. A diffuse map is basically just color or a flat image that you can apply to your model. I clicked a lot of things here that I didn't talk about, so let's do it again. So click here, say bitmap. Is basically just an image file. Select one image that you like this one, and then you hit this button here. We can assign this material to this object. So click it. The reason nothing's happening because you want to tell 3dsmax to show the shaded material. So if you click this one with the checker, then it will show it. It's stretched at the moment, but we will talk about that in the UV video later on. And it's also the same way I apply texture to my objects. So let's say we have this box here. We can apply the texture I made for the chosen one to it. Let's wait for 3dsmax to figure out how to do this. There you go. Click on assign, click on showing it in the viewport, and there you go. We have the object with texture. Yeah, that's it. So viewport settings are pretty easy also. You can click here on the realistic, where it says realistic, and you can change it to shaded, or you can change it to wireframe that will only show the edges of the objects in the viewport, and you can change it back to shaded, or you can combine it with the edged faces, so it will lay the wireframe on top of the objects. So if I select both of these things and set its color to black, then you will see the wireframe around. Oops, let's add the material here quickly so it's more visible. There you go, it has the black wireframe on top, but if you change it to only shaded, then the wireframe hides away. Here you can change the viewport to perspective, orthographic maybe, or front, right, back, whatever. So that's where you change those. And then you can, as a really annoying thing, but here you have, it says, oh sorry, let's do it again. Configure viewports. If you click on the plus button, configure viewports, and there you have display selected with edged faces, and you wanna uncheck that. It's really annoying, because now you can select the object and it will not show automatically the wireframe. You can press J on the keyboard to hide the bounding box, but if we put it back here, then every time if I select an object, then the wireframe will turn on. I don't really like that, so I always turn it off here. Whoops. There you go. And inside the configure viewports thing, you can change the background and everything. It's just pretty straightforward, to be honest. You can experiment with it a lot. And also here you have the statistics rollout, which if you click, then you can check the triangle count, make it to total and selection, and show statistics in active view. Click OK, and now if we select a box, then it will say how many polygons it is. So it's 12. If we create a sphere, then it's 960, and if we modify the segment down a bit on the sphere, then as you can see the polygon count will go down. We can select both and it will say how many polygons they are. So that's also pretty useful. And now we have layers in 3dsmax here. If you click manage layers, then it will open up the layer window. Let's create a new layer by right clicking, create layer. There we have it. Let's name it, and then we can select this object here, and then we can move it up, select it, click and drag, and then move it down to the new layer, scroll up again, and then if we create this blue thing, means that if we create a new object, then it will automatically be added to that layer. As you can see, there is the box, there is the cylinder, but if we change it to this one, then if I create a torus, I hope I pronounced that right, then it will be on another layer. So why layers are useful is because now I can turn these off, but then this will be visible, so I can organize my geometries and stuff in the viewport more clearly. It's really a useful tool when you have a lot of objects to work with. But Mickey, is that all that you need to know about 3dsmax? Is it all? No, it is not. But these are the only things that I used while creating this project, the character and the car. So if you can, I know it doesn't make much sense at the moment, all the tools that I showed you, but if you watch the second part of this video where I model the character and the car in a time-lapse video, then you will see how I use these tools and how I use connect, divide, drag, and the mirror and all of that, snapping and all of that stuff for creating a character in 3dsmax. So it doesn't make much sense now, but it will later on. And of course, as you can see, there are so many scrolls or rollout windows and pages that I didn't talk about here. There are so many things in 3dsmax that are very useful and helpful when you're working in 3D, but I didn't use that many things for this project, so I hope it made sense for you guys to walk through on these stuff, and yeah, I think it's time to jump into the second video. Definitely make sure to join me, links in the description and stuff like that. So